let's talk a little bit about that opening just now. You know, I gotta tell you a little something behind the scenes on that deal. That was the first time Beverly ever used that software when she did that opening. I've been getting all kinds of positive feedback about it. So I want to give her a shout out. And Taylor, he's been producing it the last 3 weeks. Great job on the graphics. Show looks great. What do y'all think?
Outstanding work, Taylor and Bev. Like always.
Yeah, I like it.
With time will tell. We'll be at the top. Time will tell.
Let's jump right into the offensive and defensive MVPs. This week, offensive MVP out of Waxahachie, the quarterback, Bryce Salick, 21 of 27, 497 yards, 6 TDs, no interceptions, 49-20 win over Midlothian. Pretty good performance there.
Outstanding work. Goodness, almost 500 yards on 21 receptions. That's pretty good day's work.
Yeah. 6 touchdowns, no interceptions. That is a good day's work.
Good God.
It's not 10. It's not 10 touchdowns. But those weren't 10. Those were what did Kobe throw earlier this year? Well, he threw 6 TDs that day, didn't he?
Yeah. Rushed the other ones in
and received one. Anyway, defensive MVP out of Southlake, linebacker Ryan Thompson, 15 tackles, 2 sacks, two for loss. So he spent
big bounce back game for them too.
Yeah,
big one.
Well, who was at that game?
At the Southlake Hero game?
Yeah, which one of y'all?
Dylan and Terrence.
I guess Dylan. No, Terrence wasn't here.
No, I think it was just Dylan and Craig.
You're right, but I mean, what was it? It was like 51-0. I mean, that is quite a bounce back.
Yeah.
Oh wow, Louisville need to close their school.
Really impressed me.
How do they compare to some of the other? I mean, you actually saw them play Timberview. How do you think they're going to do in the district? I mean, Lake Ridge going forward.
Yeah, I don't know. I see them finishing like second. I also saw Legacy play this week, and they really impressed me too. And I don't know, it'd be a dogfight for top 2, top 3. You know.
Was that you and Terrence? Was that you and Terrence out there at the Legacy game?
No, I was by myself.
Okay. Well, talk to us a little bit about that one. We hadn't talked about it at all.
Legacy game?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
you know what hurt Timberview in that game is Timberview is in my opinion just as good of a team as Legacy is. It's just the penalties have been hurting them all season. It really showed on Friday night. You know, they had 2 long touchdown runs that got called back due to holding and blocking the back, and you know that's really going to hurt the team. And I feel like if they can clean up those penalties, they can compete in the district and maybe get to the playoffs and make something happen.
But 31-7. I mean, that's a.
Yeah, I know. It doesn't seem like it, but I mean, like I guess it's one of those games where you have to be there to understand. But like it wasn't as one-sided as it looks. Like Timberview and Legacy were like right there with each other.
And okay, this week, you and Terrence Thursday night. Partner at Skyline. I mean, Skyline is in the playoff hunt, and this is a huge game. Raleigh, first, you tell me what you think about the upcoming Berkner at Skyline game.
You know, they're both coming off a loss, so this is a really big game in terms of where they want their season to go. I feel like this is a must-win game for Skyline because they lose this game, they fall way back in the standings. You know, just in terms of competing with the other schools. And I feel like they're gonna come. They have to play a clean game. You know, they lost to Jesuit. I feel like penalties hurt them in that game too, and I feel like they have to come out, and if they come out and play a clean game, they'll win this game.
Terrence, I mean, Skyline alum. We know. I can't hear Terrence.
Okay, here I am. I'm right here.
Okay, Terrence. Berkner Skyline. What do you see besides Skyline winning?
I see a Skyline team coming back I mean, I know they lost last week. It was a very close game, 35-31. Can't really argue with that. Velton Gardner had 3 TDs rushing, 240 yards on the ground, 1 passing. He was kind of the buck of their offense. I'm a little worried because it looks like that's all the firepower they have on offense. I've seen Berkner play earlier against Lake Highlands, but Berkner lost big time to Pierce last week, 52-6. So Berkner's coming in 1-2 in district. Skyline's 2-1 in district coming in. Kind of be on the home turf here on my side of town in Oak Cliff. I think Skyline will bounce back. I think Velton Gardner can carry them, farther than he can versus when they played the Jesuit team. Jesuit was a well-coached team, mind you, there. I mean, they put Emmitt Smith Jr. in safety when Skyline was on the drive to come back, and he caught the pick. So, it kind of broke my heart there. But, I mean, it's kind of wide open right there because it's like back and forth in that district. 2-1 because they were 2-0 leading the district, so they just have to get this win, like Riley said, or they may fall back.
Okay, you're right. EJ is an athlete. I saw him at the goal line at Capel just dive over a guy, like the guy was standing up over him into the end zone. So, kid's an athlete. Riley, a big game for you Friday. South Grand Prairie at Duncanville. Talk to us.
Yeah, I mean, this is hard for me to say going to South Grand Prairie, but I really don't think they have a chance in this game, I've been saying this all year, Duncanville is the best team in this district by far, in my opinion. And, they have a defense that averages allowing 8.5 points per game and an offense that scores 45 points a game. You're going to win a lot of games. And, I just don't think South Grand Prairie has the offense to compete with Duncanville in this game.
I agree with you. Duncanville is one of the best teams in the state, and that defense, I mean, a lot of starters back from last year and got knocked out by Allen last year in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
But
they're definitely a hungry
team. So, Riley, you pick 6. I threw some in here to where everybody's going to have to do a little bit of studying, but Lone Star at Wakeland.
Yeah, I definitely did do a lot of studying for all these teams. I wasn't exactly familiar with most of them, but I feel like Lone Star won that game.
I agree with that. Prosper at McKinney North.
Prosper.
R.L. Turner at Newman Smith.
I mean, this was a hard one to pick. Both of them have had tough seasons, but I had Turner winning this game.
Highland Park at Poteet.
I learned my lesson through the last 3 weeks that you don't pick against Highland Park. I'm going to go with Highland Park. Yeah.
Gotta listen.
Yeah. Well, but the thing is about that Poteet team, and they had a lot of kids back, is last year when they got in the playoffs, I mean, they went on a run, but we're in the playoffs. And you're right, Highland Park, I mean, Highland Park is just like, it's just like workmanlike each week. It's like not really excited, but they just do it and do it and do it.
Yes.
Jesuit and Pierce. I think this is a good matchup here. It's a big game. Huge.
Yeah, this is one of the harder ones for me to pick. Jesuit's coming off a win, but I feel like Pierce will win that game.
They both have good quarterbacks. And then Lancaster at Timberview, I think that'll be a good game too.
Yeah, this is another tough one for me to pick. I've seen both of these teams play, and they've both really impressed me. But I feel like Timberview, they won't get penalties. I think Lancaster will win the game.
Okay.
All right, so who is your biggest surprise of the 2017 season?
I mean, go back to when I was talking about Duncanville. I mean, going into the season, obviously they made a run into the playoffs, but did you really expect them to be a team that you could talk about in week 7, just that they're better than DeSoto? I mean, you look at it, they're one of the best defense. They have a top 10 defense in the state, and they have a top 5 offense. I mean, what else can you ask for?
Okay. Well, so what you got going on tonight? You got a date? What's going on?
Yeah, I have to go pick up somebody.
Okay, somebody.
That's a nice name there.
All right.
That's a nice name.
We'll let you go. We'll move on to Malik. How's that?
Tell somebody we said what's up. Leave that name blank.
We'll see you next week then, Riley. Thanks a lot. All right, Malik, you went out to that nice little stadium in Argyle last week, and they put on a show, 62-21 over Decatur, who is probably one of their, I think, rivals over the years. I don't know.
Yeah. Actually, in the first quarter, our Decatur actually gave me belief that they could pull the upset, but as it went on, second quarter came and they scored about 45 in a row. 9 sacks, 2 interceptions, a forced fumble, ran back for a touchdown. Argyle just put the pedal down.
Who stands out on that Argyle team?
Man, the 2 running backs, John Lang and Don Williams, both had 10 carries. Lang had 96 yards. Williams with over 100. Both had 2 touchdowns. John Copeland made about 3 or 4 nice throws for touchdowns. And the whole defensive line, 9 sacks.
Wow. That is crazy.
Yeah, Decatur's quarterback was a sitting duck most of the game, not mobile, and I don't think you have to have a mobile quarterback to beat them, but those were 62. They put up about 45 in a row. 62-21, but the 21 shouldn't have been given up.
Did they put the brakes on? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, could have scored about 80. Could have allowed less than 7.
And what do you think about you're covering Allen at Guyer this week? First time to see both of them, isn't it?
Second time seeing Guyer. First time seeing Allen since high school, and of course they're looking like the Allen of old, undefeated. Sturgis at running back, Grant Tisdale quarterback, great, 15 total touchdowns. Him and Sturgis have like 90% of the team's touchdowns.
And Theo Weiss, because I was at Allen this week, so the receiver Theo, I mean, he had like 2 touchdowns, and he's been getting them all year.
Yeah, and then I mean Guyer, you got Keith Kadadrick, you got Cobbs in there running back, 17 touchdowns through the year. But like I said, you're playing Allen, and at some point somebody has to beat him. At some point somebody has to beat him in district, so you got to make a big play, somebody force a turnover, make a big catch, score when when you're open, when you're guarded, you got to make the catch. That's the only way to beat them, and it's going to be tough.
And Matt and I were last year when Westlake beat Allen in the playoffs. It was because they got all kinds of pressure on the quarterback all day long, and I mean, that's you're going to have to put pressure on the quarterback.
Yeah, you're going to have to take chances. It's you have nothing to lose.
Right.
Playing Allen, they have everything to lose. You're playing at home Friday night. I'm not sure if it's their homecoming or not, but that's a big game, of course. And
surely they wouldn't make Allen their homecoming, would they?
I hope not. But I mean, back in the day, Bowie made Skyline our homecoming when they're about number 5 in the state.
We made Hebron our homecoming game, so
got the win. So again,
well, Nick Harris used to go to Allen. What do you got to say about Allen? What do you got to say about it, Nick?
All I got to say is ever since I left, they haven't won state. So I think I'm going to have to return if they want to win state this year. No, but for real, Grant Tisdale, Brock Sturgis, Theo Weiss, they're obviously the catalysts of that offense, but their defense is what's been keeping them in games this year.
Yeah, exactly.
They have D1 commits in the secondary and the linebacking core and on the defensive line. Big corner, Javon Jones is Jalen Jones' brother. Jalen Jones is a returner for Ole Miss and corner at Ole Miss. And Javon Jones' brother, he's a commit to New Mexico, and he's making a lot of plays on that secondary this year. And that defense is looking really strong.
Yeah, and exactly that. You got to control the clock, and Guyer has the running back to do so. With Cobbs, you can't let them have the football, and you can't give up defensive touchdowns. Once Allen gets that first turnover score, it's going down the drain. So hopefully I can get a good one. I'm looking forward to it.
You have to play the perfect game to beat Allen.
Perfect. I'm hoping all Dayton Guyer comes out.
Well, Nick, what do you observation? I don't know if the offense, and I don't know if I haven't researched it, but the eyeball test. I don't think the Allen offensive line is as good as it was last year. And I don't know if I don't know who left, who graduated. It may be the same guys, but
Well, they still got Trey Stratford. He's captain for the team. He's on that offensive line, commit to UCLA. He's leading that offensive line. Their offensive line, they've had a couple holes this year, and facilitating that running game. But when you have a running back like Brock Sturgis, it really doesn't matter if your offensive line's good or not. He's running down the throats of defenses, and then when he can't get the ball up the middle, then Grant Tisdale is there for the play action to throw it deep. And the offense is just tough to beat when you have two playmakers like that.
right.
Well, I'm gonna call out those Allen boys. I'm trying to see him get punched in the mouth. Friday night. I want to see a good one. I want to see him get punched in the mouth, be down a few scores.
It may be the playoffs before they get punched in the mouth. But
Man,
I'm gonna have to ditto that one. I'm gonna have to ditto that one. I'm ready.
Your fans need to show out too. You know, Allen's gonna pack Hollins.
I mean, there are some teams around the Metroplex that can play with Allen, but I don't know if it's in their district.
Yeah, and like I said, it's gonna be a tough one.
Right,
It's a long shot, but got nothing to lose.
Right. Okay, pick 6. Lone Star at Wakeland.
Lone Star.
Prosper at McKinney North.
I'm gonna roll with Prosper.
Okay, and I got to tell y'all a little history about this R.L. Turner Newman Smith. See, Kenny and I both went to Newman Smith. R.L. Turner was the rivalry back then, so that's why I had to throw this in there. Back when we were in high school, this is no lie, there would be a line from the stadium all the way to 35 at halftime. Not anymore, but I'm not lying, am I, Kenny? Okay. R.L. Turner at Newman Smith.
For the sake, let's go R.L. Turner.
Okay. Highland Park at Poteet.
Highland Park. Never pick against them.
Jesuit at Pierce. That's a tough
Jesuit.
one. Okay. Lancaster at Timberview. That's another tough one.
That is a tough one. I saw Timberview earlier this year. Or Lancaster, I mean.
You saw them at Ryan.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Lancaster. They played Ryan well.
Oh, they did. Okay.
Better well.
So, who of all the teams in the area who is your biggest surprise of 2017 season?
Biggest surprise, just coming out to the Denton area for the first time, is actually getting to see firsthand how dominant Denton Ryan is, particularly their defense. They're the youngest defense that I've covered, and they're the best defense I've covered. They're the fastest defense I've covered. So getting to see that with my eyes. And then Arlington High, back in Arlington, to see how they've risen as a program.
It's true. That's true. And I mean, in Ryan, it's not just on defense. That team has speed on both sides of the ball.
They're young talent, and I've always, of course, you see them in the paper #1, but to see them in person and to see these kids are sophomores and juniors and their work.
And a freshman.
Freshman, yeah, Bowman, the freshman. So their work ethic, they're humble, they're ready to get it, and I hope those guys get a shot at that state title.
Right. Okay. Now, Lauren, you're gonna have to bring up a sore subject.
Oh yeah.
Hebron's 33-10 win over your Marauders. What happened?
Well, the game started and it looked like it was actually going to be a pretty good one.
Right.
Hebron received the opening kickoff, scored a touchdown, kicked off to Marcus. They scored, and then each scored a field goal. Well, then Hebron scored a field goal, and then Marcus punted. And then a Hebron punt, and then just kept on punting for a while. So at halftime, looking at the game, it was kind of like did what really happened to start this game actually happen? Because both teams looked like they were ready to show out and play. But then again, you start the second half, and the first play was an interception by the Marcus quarterback. So following that, it just gave Hebron some momentum, and they just kept on going.
And you're right. I mean, I'm always having to keep track of the Twitter scores, and I was like, well, it looks like a good game. I mean, I expected a good game, a tight one. I mean, I thought Hebron would win, but I expected a tight game. Was there? You mentioned the interception. Were there a lot of turnovers by Marcus? I mean,
Actually, no, just the one by Xavier Maxwell.
They just had trouble stopping them.
Yes, Hebron has really good DBs. So on the play, it was just routes got confused, and they got Hebron's defensive backs that are just so good in their coverage that he was able to spot it before the receiver did.
Okay. And who y'all have? What's going on? You playing at South Lake this week, so it doesn't get any easier.
Not at all. I'm hoping it's a little bit of the continued momentum of not losing on the road, and then followed by you just lost your homecoming game. You want to win the next one. So Marcus offense has to figure out how to get back on track, and defense has to get back to their lockdown that they were in weeks past. Their line has to have insane pressure because South Lake has some very good running backs. And then the offense just, whoa.
TJ is one of the best running backs in the area of Nutley State. I mean, the first 3 games, he had like 200 yards a game. I mean, it was like 170 yards a game the first 3 weeks.
Yes.
And Terrence, you saw him over there at Martin, even in a losing effort, 200 yards the first half. And you're going to be at that game too. So talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, I will be at that game, and like you say, TJ games are up and down. The last game I had was South Lake. He went dry in the first half and turned it on in the second half, ended up with 192 yards. But against Louisville, he only had 67 yards, no TDs. It was all Will Bowers throwing to different receivers, four TDs in the air. They still blanked them 51-0. But it lets me know the defense was playing. I think Mickens had a return punt for a touchdown. So, I mean, Will Bowers, when TJ McDaniel's not on, Will Bowers can carry that team.
But
he proved that to me.
It may not be that he wasn't on. It may be that they all came out because it was, what was it, 51-0? I mean.
Well, that could be true, but 67 yards and you didn't get none of that 51-0. You have to get some of that because, like I say, he had 26 yards the whole half in the game I did before and end up with 192. So if I pull him out, not, hey, that's a big boy that can rush hard. So maybe they just keyed on him. And you're right, it's district. Maybe they're just saving it for Marcus. It's going to be a battle of those running backs. I love to see Dink head to head.
That's right. Both teams have good running backs for sure.
Dinka had some limited carries last week, only had about 15. So kind of think the same thing, even though they were losing, holding him back for South Lake because offense was already falling apart there.
Was Marcus having to throw more though? Or
Sir?
Was Marcus having to throw more?
Yes, actually, especially in the second half.
Yeah. So had the touchdown, Randy.
Yeah. I did see that. We actually had that highlight up on the Twitter, but we get Lauren's pick 6.
All right.
Lone Star at Wakeland.
I'm gonna go with Lone Star.
It's unanimous so far. Newman Smith alumni over there coaching at Lone Star. You know.
Coach Rayburn.
Yeah. Shout out to Coach Rayburn. Prosper and McKinney North.
Prosper.
R.L. Turner at Newman Smith.
Okay, it was painful to look at any of the stats from these teams, and I went with Turner purely over the rushing game.
Kenny, we're getting killed. As 3 runners,
I'm a fan of rushing.
Smith.
Right here.
I hope Russ is not watching. Highland Park at Poteet.
Highland Park. I've said it once and I'll say it again. You just cannot stop their passing offense.
Jesuit and Pierce.
Pierce.
I mean, that one's a pretty split. I mean, I think that's going to be a really good game. I'm going to that game. So, Lancaster at Timberview.
Timberview. I like their defense a little bit more.
Okay. And ask yourself your own question.
I'll ask
who's your biggest surprise this season, Lauren?
Lauren, who's your biggest surprise this season?
I think my biggest surprise would have to be South Lake, really, because South Lake losing 2 games, especially the one against Trinity, they're such a team that are able to beat Louisville 51-0, but at the same time give up a 19-0 lead at halftime. And it's just a team that can really go either way on doing really well or falling apart. And it's just interesting to me what they're able to do. Painful to say when I'm playing them.
And Terrence will probably agree with this. I mean, at some points in games, I mean, they're playing. It's like they look great, and then they're like somebody. I mean, like Nick Rockwall. Those first 2 drives, I mean, just moved up and down the field like there was no defense.
I'm hoping we can do that on Friday against them.
I mean, what was it, Nick? Second play, 70-yard touchdown.
It was the first, like the kickoff was returned for like 80 yards, and they got a field goal, and then a quick turnover, and it was like 10-0 before like 2 minutes have even gone by.
So yeah. All right. So Nick,
Yes.
Rockwall at Horn.
Yes.
That's a tough.
That's definitely a proving game for Rockwall because Horn, they're coming out firing this year. They have the 5th best offense in 6A, and Rockwall, they have a pretty good offense themselves. So you're definitely going to see a lot of points. I'm actually going to have to show up a little late to that one because I got my homecoming back at Heath, so I got to do some stuff there pregame and then run over to Mesquite. So I'm probably going to miss 40 points.
Oh, hold on. Nick's in the homecoming court, everybody. So we've got Friday Night Glory's Nick Harris in the homecoming court.
Nick for King.
Yeah.
Long live the King.
Shout out to Nick. We want everybody voting Nick Harris for homecoming king, right? Okay. Sorry.
It's kind of like that. Like it's a long story. It's
Well,
kind of like that.
All right. Well, I was in high school a long time ago, but go ahead. Sorry.
So yeah, I'm probably gonna miss like 40 points and show up mid first quarter. So there's gonna be a lot of points in that Horn and Rockwall game. Rockwall has to win this one. It's a non-negotiable, and it's gonna be tough because Horn's undefeated in district, and they're throwing points around like there's no tomorrow. So it's definitely gonna be a tough one for Rockwall.
That's another Terrence. Seems like Terrence has seen every team in DFW so far, doesn't it? Terrence saw Horn over at the Cotton Bowl against his Skyline Raiders.
I've seen Horn, but they've been getting beat lately a little bit.
What about Wren? I mean, talk about Wren. I mean, he had a big game in Cotton Bowl. He's a big recruit in DFW.
Yeah, Maurice Wren is nice. He's a nice quarterback there.
Wide receiver.
Yeah, wide receiver. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I got them mixed up. It's been so long ago. I'm 2 times at the Cotton Bowl, man. I mean, I walked those stairs, and that heat from OU Texas weekend, it just got me delusional right now, I think. But yeah, I've been seeing Horn in the write-ups there, but they took a couple of L's.
Okay, and then so you're going to be at both games, John Tyler at Heath.
Yeah, John Tyler, we thought they were going to kind of be a pretender in this district. And first week of the district, they came out with like a 40-plus point loss to Rockwall. But then they came right back with back-to-back wins. So they're 2-1 right now in district. And they can get to that 3-1 spot and be tied for second if they beat Heath. But Heath are 3-0. This will be Heath's probably first true test aside from Rockwall here in the district. It's curious to see how they both come out of the bye week because both are battling injuries and both need a win to stay at top district.
What do you think?
I'm going to have to take Heath in that one. Heath's homecoming. They're going to want to show out for their homecoming fans, and they can push to 4-0, and that basically locks them a playoff spot.
Right.
So it'll definitely be interesting to see.
And last year, of course, they beat Rockwall, and Rockwall went to the playoffs, and Heath didn't. So
that's right. And John Tyler beat Heath 49-0 last year. So I'm sure the Heath players are looking for a little revenge on that end.
I'm sure they are. Okay, let's go to pick 6.
All right. Let's get it.
Lone Star at Wakeland.
I love my man Kirby Bennett over there at Lone Star. He used to be the running back for Allen.
Right.
Kind of miss him over at Allen, but he's getting it done over at Lone Star. I like it, so I'm gonna go with Lone Star.
Prosper McKinney North.
You have to go with Prosper. 5-1 so far, and undefeated in district. Gonna have to go with Prosper.
Didn't they win that district last year?
I believe so.
Yes.
So.
Then the big R.L. Turner at Newman Smith, Battle of Josie Lane.
Yeah, flip a coin, R.L. Turner.
4-0, Kenny. We're getting killed. Killed. Highland Park at Poteet.
Highland Park. Like everybody else, you can't pick against Highland Park until they lose.
Right. Jesuit at Pierce. Well, this one's been kind of split.
I'm going to go with the Jesuit.
Okay. Lancaster at Timberview.
Timberview.
Okay.
A little bit of a sideways upset there, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, and that's still a tough one. Timberview, I mean, I agree with what Riley said earlier. I mean, Timberview has athletes. I mean, but you make a bunch of look at Texas Tech this weekend. Penalties, turnovers. I mean, you can't win like that.
Morgantown fans in their ears.
No, killed me. All right, Lauren.
So, who is your biggest surprise of the 2017 season?
Well, I'm going to come with two. My first one, Frisco Reedy. They're undefeated, and of all of the Frisco teams this year, you wouldn't think they'd be number one in supremacy right now. I mean, you got Lone Star out there, you got just Frisco, and then Frisco Reedy's making a lot of noise over there in 5A, and they're coming out of their bye week 6-0, looking for a perfect regular season, and they have an interesting game coming up against Lone Star later in the year, so that'll definitely be a big one.
I'd say you're a genius on that pick, by the way.
It's a good pick.
I take that wholeheartedly. And then on my second surprise, I'm going to go with Mesquite Horn out of my district. They were picked by Dallas Morning News to finish last in District 11 6A, and they are currently first, and no one is even giving them a run for their money.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm going through Kendrick lyrics right now. Hold on. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. You got Horn and Reedy. They're two biggest surprises in the DFW area right now.
all right. Now down to we've already talked to Terrence.
I
you've
didn't
already
pick
talked
six.
with him. You've talked about Jesuit and Skyline. Let's see. Who were you at? What game were you at Friday? Last week
Game I was at last week.
on Friday.
That was Jesuit. Well, I didn't have a game Friday. I did the Thursday night with Jesuit.
Did I mess
and
it up, or
Skyline.
did you ask off?
Nah, you gave me off because you knew it was OU Texas weekend. I had to get ready.
No, I messed it up.
Yeah.
You did?
I started like looking through the videos. I was like, "Where's Terrence on Friday?"
What game were you gonna put me at last
don't
Friday?
know. That's
Oh,
what-
yeah.
I was like, he had to have been with Riley because they didn't upload. Anyway, okay, let's go pick six. Lone Star at Wakeland.
Pick six for me.
Yep.
I'm about to go with Lone Star, the Kirby Bennett kid. I remember that kid up at Allen. He left, went out of town, then come back to Allen, went to Frisco Lone Star. So I think he'll
When
get
did
the rolling.
IMG was it IMG that he went to?
No, Bishop
am-
Gorman
Bishop Gorman.
It was
It's
one of
one
the
of those moments. Okay, try to go up there and
got
win the
kicked
easy
off
way.
that team.
He got
tried.
kicked
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
couldn't pitch well with those boys. He's a different cut from a
Undisclosed
They've had some
team
coaching
rules.
issues though, as well. I know their coach was fired too.
Oh yeah, they're crazy. Can't
Yeah,
put all
they're
talents in
insane.
I mean,
Vegas.
in my opinion, but that's a whole different topic. Maybe we should talk about one night. Is some of those schools that are the prep schools, they should be prep schools and then high schools, and not everybody ranked in one deal because high schools aren't supposed to be recruiting, but I know it
You
happens.
can't compete with IMG and Bishop Gorman.
No, it's ridiculous.
It's a post kid
Prosper.
career.
Prosper and McKinney North.
Prosper and McKinney North. Since I used to live in the town of Prosper, I'm gonna have to go with my Prosper.
Okay.
They might prosper.
Earl Turner at Newman Smith.
R.L. Turner, Newman Smith. Back in my days, they were some pretty heavy hitters.
Battle of Josie Lane.
Out of Josie Lane. I guess I go with R.L. Turner
Okay.
since I think
Oh,
close to
wow.
R.L. Thornton Freeway.
Highland Park at Poteet.
Let's go with those Scots out of Highland Park, like you say, until they're knocked off. They're gonna keep on winning.
Yeah, I mean,
Jones boys over there.
still they're playing somebody like Denton Ryan or somebody like that. Or Alito. I mean, it's
Or down in the playoffs somewhere.
all right.
That's probably when they issue.
Jesuit at Pierce.
Jesuit Pierce, I like what I see in Jesuit. I mean, they're a resilient team, coached well too. Brandon Hickman has those guys trained, and they can play 4 quarters of football. So if you're on the opposite side of the ball when you're facing Jesuit, they were district champs last year. They started off a little rocky. They started off 0-3 last year, and they might come up and win that district. So I'm gonna roll with them Rangers.
Probably not going to win the district, but they probably start off with a tougher schedule this year than last year. I mean, because Capel's better this year. So
Yeah,
I
True,
mean,
yeah.
and they have Lake Travis on game 3. I mean, who plays both 6A state champs on their schedule in the first 3 weeks? I mean, that's crazy.
And champions do.
Yeah.
Got to
No,
get them ready, man. Yeah, I mean
Oh,
that's
no,
pretty good for them. Cause just
it-
think deep in the playoff, it's gonna get hard. So don't have that bubblegum schedule.
no, I
Come
mean
on.
they're not. I mean they're not gonna. I mean nobody's gonna intimidate them. I mean seriously.
Oh yeah.
Lancaster at Timberview.
Lancaster scares me when they play a lot of Mansfield schools. I mean, Lancaster can stick in there. I just don't think they have the athletes they had a couple of years ago when they went to state. So I'm about to roll with Timberview. That's my other neighborhood, Mansfield. So I'm staying with my hoods.
Okay. Go ahead, Lauren.
All right, so what is your biggest surprise of 2017?
I'm not really surprised. It's Texas high school football. I mean, probably my biggest, I would say Duncanville because I haven't seen them. But when I seen that defense, I was looking more of offense, knowing Reginald Samples. He's a high flying guy. But when I seen that defense, a championship caliber, they can basically probably win with that defense all the way to state. Offense can do just enough, but I think the defense will carry them. So Duncanville may be my big surprise. He should go ahead and get his state champion this year. He ran from the question when I tried to interview him and asked him about it to go along with those 250 wins. Coach, you need that state title. One game at a time, one game at a time. So hopefully that one game at a time will pay off for Reginald Samples and the Panthers.
That's coach speak, though. You know that.
Yeah, but me and him, we cool. We cool.
Okay.
Even though he
All
left
right.
my
Kenny, what's up with Ranchview? 1 week they're like, it's like they're like.
That was a buzzsaw they ran into Thursday.
I did not expect. I mean, did you expect that?
No, I didn't. I mean, we were all kind of worrying about how healthy Ranchview was going to be going into that game, and Henderson ended up playing quarterback for Ranchview that night, but it was just a battle. I mean, it was just they lost the game on big plays. I mean, it was long TD run in the beginning of the game for Alvarado. Blake Henderson had a 67-yard TD. Then they got another TD. It was 14-0 before you really looked up, and then. But Sir Roderick Thompson scored, made it 14-7. But after that, it was never close. They just completely dominated both lines of the scrimmage. They rushed for 267 yards between Henderson and Andrew Barojas. The sophomore quarterback, Josh Cyrus, he came in. That was his very first start. He'd been playing linebacker or defensive end all year because of injuries. He came in and he had a good game. He actually ended up throwing a TD pass to his brother at the end of the game, Jacob Cyrus. It was just a solid game for Alvarado. Seemed like Ranchview just was not. I mean, after they got down 21-7, there was no fighting the dog then at that point in time. And so with it being that way, it just became one of those where Alvarado just ran the football. And after that, it was the quickest game I've ever. Randy, we were doing interviews at 9:10 on Thursday night. That's how quick that game was.
Crazy.
Yes.
And Dan went over and interviewed the coach earlier this year at Alvarado. I mean, Alvarado. He used to be at Cedar Hill.
I was just going to say Cedar Hill, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean the Cedar Hill coaching trees all over the place.
Absolutely. I mean, they held Sir Roderick Thompson to 155 total yards. It was about 85 yards less on his season average for the year. I believe it was like 220 yards total offense for Ranchview in that game. So, I mean, you're talking about just not, obviously grinding out the clock, rushing the football. But anytime that you can hold the team for 214 yards total offense, you're going to win that game big.
And then, okay, my biggest surprise of the year would have been McKinney.
Yes.
I mean, and they kind of had a soft schedule, but then they beat Plano. But Plano might have been looking ahead to Allen that week.
Sure.
And it's not getting beat by Geyer, but 31-14. Was it even a game?
Well, it was one of those games where I thought when I mentioned last week was that Denton Geyer, I thought of them being more of a playoff savvy team, tested team. I think they had a sense of urgency going into that game, knowing that they couldn't lose another district game to have a shot at district. They also, I thought McKinney was kind of, one-dimensional type team. Now, they do extremely well. They average 465 yards rushing a game prior to Friday. I mean, that's a ridiculous number. That's a wishbone type number, So, I mean, but you have to give credit to Denton Geyer's front seven. They held Matthew Gaddick to 85 yards. I believe it was Cedric Dunn to 14 yards. I mean, that's that's 25% of your offensive output that you're used to getting that they held them down to. And after that, it was just Denton Guyer just took care of business. They were able to rush Kedrick Cobbs. He only had 125 yards. I know people say only 125 yards, but they were able. It was hard yards. He earned every bit of his yardage last week.
What like the week before when he was running for like 6 touchdowns, whatever, 5 touchdowns.
I mean, he really, really did. And then not only that, I mean, I think that it was just that they had a suffocating defense. And I think Coach Walls kind of said that in the interview before. He says, we thought we could get after him up front, and that was what they did. And they made McKinney one-dimensional. And then once Whitmer, their quarterback from McKinney, he got knocked out in the second quarter, midway through the second quarter. Now, he was able to come back in the third quarter, which was a big surprise to all of us. But you could tell he wasn't 100%. But they were already down 28-7 at that point in time. You know, you could just sense that it was ball game then at halftime. But you have to give Coach Walsh's team credit there. I mean, they didn't play a very good second half, which he kind of got on the team there at the end of the game about. But that, the Boray, the middle linebacker from Denton Guyer, he's a heck of a defensive football player, and that's one of our former defensive players of the year with Kedrick Cobbs last week. But
right.
Both of them showed up. I believe he had 12 or 11 tackles, something of that nature. But it was just a suffocating defense. That's the reason why Guyer won.
Right. We're just going to go to pick 6 with you because whatever game you do is in the pick 6.
Cool.
Lone Star Wakeland.
I'm going with Coach Rayburn. Give me the Newman Smith alum. I think that MJ Rivers, the Illinois recruit, and Nick Bolton, one of the best linebackers in the area, I think they're going to get him. I mean, Wakeland would have been one of my surprises if they hadn't lost the last 2 weeks, so far. So, but yeah, I'm going to go with Briscoe Lone Star.
And Bolton, I mean, Bolton was starting on that team at linebacker when they went to state as a sophomore. So he's got a lot of experience there. Prosper at McKinney North.
Prosper is the best team in that district by far. I mean, they're the most balanced team on there. They got a good defense, got a very, superior offense in that district there. I don't see them losing until maybe the third or the fourth round in the playoffs, depending on how the enrollment goes. But I think Prosper's got a shot at maybe getting to the Final Four in, this year or so before they get shipped off to 6A next year.
Okay, Battle of Josie Lane, Kenny.
Gosh, we gotta go with the fighting Paul Resses. We gotta bring some balance to this. The Trojans win in a close one, 7-6.
Well, I mean, the thing is that probably will. They're always close. I mean, 7. I'm thinking more like a 24-21 game, but
don't wish that on those people.
How about Park at Poteet?
I told you guys last week, don't ever go against the Bagpipes at home in district games. I think this may be the most underrated job.
One year. We got teased over there one year on their home and we got them down 14-0.
Well, I think that it might be Randy Allen's best coaching job considering what he had coming back this year. I mean, yes, he did win the state championship last year, but his defense only had 2 returning defense. They were very young. Most of them were sophomores and juniors that didn't have a whole lot of playing experience. And also, obviously, the quarterback has played extremely well this year for them, too. He's not throwing to the other team. So anytime you play good defense and don't have turnovers, you're going to win ball games.
Jesuit and Pierce.
I'm a firm believer of Towns, Pendergrass, E.J. Smith. I love Coach Hickman. I'm going with the Rangers.
And Lancaster, Timberview.
I think Timberview bounces back after the tough loss last week. I think they'll win. I'm not sold on Lancaster, and I don't know why. I just don't know why. Something's not Lancaster-esque, if that makes any sense. So I'm going to go with Timberview.
Okay.
So who would be your biggest surprise of this season?
I'm going to surprise you guys. I'm going to go with the 3A state champion of last year, Gunter, Texas. They're 7-0, been beating people by 40 points every game. They graduated a ton of talent last year off that state championship team. They're rolling through their district. I think they can make it back-to-back before they get shipped off to 4A next year. Going with Gunter.
I watched some of that state playoff game. That was
Yep.
a good game.
They're good.
I like that.
James Bowie, that's another surprise I have. Where y'all at, man? Homecoming games. We don't lose homecoming games where I'm from.
Well, hopefully
right.
Skyline don't lose theirs either this Thursday. It's their homecoming.
Ooh.
What?
I can pick
Always
it
thought
up.
homecoming on Thursday stinks.
Yeah, it's
but
JV night.
Yeah.
What are they doing?
I saw the Allen Plano at Allen game last week,
Mhm.
and it didn't seem like Plano came out till the second half. I mean, the second half, Plano played them well, but they were just too far behind.
Right.
They're making no plays on offense, no plays on defense, and in the second half, they were getting penetration. They were moving the ball, but it was like they got caught up in the moment, or maybe they got too fired up before the game. I don't know, but
Right.
they started too slow. Allen was all over them. It was like, if I remember right, they had the ball the first two times they scored.
Was that Plano West or Plano?
Plano.
It was Plano. I mean,
With Kyron Comby?
right, and he didn't do anything until the second. They didn't do anything on offense till the second half. They came out. I mean, second half right off the bat. If they would have came out to start the game like they did the second half, it would have been a good game. But it was too far behind.
Yeah,
I remember.
They held that Chris kid also to, like 30 yards total, something like that on like 18 carries. So, I mean, if you shut one of those guys down like that, boy, that's a whole lot of weight that Cumbie would have to try to put on his back against that monster.
Yeah.
Called Allen.
13, yeah, turnover in every game. Haven't bailed out over 10 points one time. It's like they're Allen, of course, and I've only seen Allen in person twice. Both times they played DeSoto in the playoffs, and those were instant classics.
Yep.
So I'm interested to see a regular season Allen team.
It'll be fun. They'll have about 100 people on the sidelines.
Yeah. Okay. My pick is Lone Star at Wakeland. I'm taking Lone Star. Taking Prosper over McKinney North. We're going to even it out to, what is it, 2-4, Kenny?
Yes.
We got to stick with our boy Russa.
Yes.
Highland Park at Poteet. Highland Park, that's unanimous. I'm going to take Pierce in the Jesuit game. Sorry, Steve Harry. I've got one of my fraternity brothers' kids plays on Jesuit. One of my good friends, John Brewer, his son's the quarterback at Pierce. I'm going to take Pierce in that game. Lancaster at Timberview. That's a tough one. I'm going to take Lancaster on that game. And
So who would be your biggest surprise of 2017?
well, I already told you Nick's a genius, and so Reed is second year, first year with seniors, and they're undefeated. I mean, who would have thought there would be a Lone Star and Reedy at the top? I mean, I thought it would be Wakeland and Lone Star, and
yes, me too.
And Reedy, and they seem to be getting better and better.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they can beat Lone Star. But
I agree.
Yeah.
Kirby Bennett. It's like a little bowling ball.
What are we, week 7, whatever? Anything any other y'all have seen that y'all you like to talk about?
I'm bringing out the broom.
Hey, they won, Kenny.
I swept the board last week, baby. 6-0 on my picks. So
oh, wow. Hey,
all right.
The Yankees about to do something, too.
These offenses need to hold on to the football. I've seen too many fumbles. Too many fumbles. You got two hands around it. Too many fumbles.
Try to be too cute with the ball.
Yeah, trying to Heisman out here.
I haven't seen as many picks. Now I haven't seen as many picks, but I'm seeing 3-4 fumbles a game.
Yeah, but most of that because they're playing Ryan.
Nah, everybody. I'm 2 hands on the ball, guys. Let's get down.
Okay.
Carry the ball in school
Sideline.
and class.
Well, I mean, I think that's it. I mean, we've got some interesting games this week. We'll check back on these pick sixes. We're gonna make a Matt's job this week since he's not here. He's gonna keep up with everybody's record on pick six. What do y'all think?
Sounds good.
Yeah, man.
All right, everybody have fun at their games this week, and we'll talk to y'all next Tuesday.
Sounds
All
good.
right.
All
All
right.
right.
Have a good one, guys.
Hey, everybody.